It didn't carry a gun, it didn't bleed. Yet, in 1943, this silent machine fought one of the deadliest wars in human history. Hidden deep beneath British soil, it listened to enemy whispers, patterns of numbers, pulses of electricity, and it understood them faster than any human could. Some call it the first computer. Others call it the first AI. But when victory came, the world never knew its name. The government destroyed every trace, as if trying to erase the mind that helped them win. This is the story of the machine that thought, before we even had a word for thinking machines. The AI that fought the Nazis and was buried by history. The world is burning. Europe has fallen beneath the march of mechanized warfare. Cities crumble. Ships sink in the Atlantic darkness. Millions die not knowing if morning will ever come again. But this war isn't just fought with bullets and bombs. It's fought in whispers, in codes, in messages that travel through the air, invisible, deadly. And the Germans believe they've created something unbreakable. They call it enigma, a machine that scrambles every message into mathematical chaos. 3 rotors, each with 26 positions. Plugboard connections that change daily. Do the math. That's 159 million possible combinations. To the German High Command, Enigma isn't just secure. It's impossible to crack. Every order, every troop movement, every secret, hidden behind a wall of numbers so vast that even if you tried every combination, 1 per second, it would take longer than the age of the universe. They send their commands across the airwaves in plain sight, confident that nobody could ever understand. They were wrong. 50 miles north of London, hidden behind trees and secrecy laws, sits Bletchley Park. To the outside world, it's just a country estate. Inside, it's the beating heart of Britain's silent war. 10,000 people work here. Mathematicians, linguists, chess champions, crossword obsessives, and one brilliant, troubled man named Alan Turing. Turing and his team have done the impossible. They've found a way to break Enigma. Using logic, mathematics, and a machine called the bomb, they can decode some German messages. Some. But there's a problem. The Germans send thousands of messages every day. Thousands. And each one must be decoded by hand, rotating rotors, checking combinations, testing possibilities. Even with Turing's bomb machines humming day and night, they can't keep up. By the time a message is decoded, the information is worthless. The ships have already sailed. The attack has already happened. The soldiers are already dead. Intelligence without speed is no intelligence at all. Allied commanders grow desperate. The Germans have introduced a new, even more complex encryption system called Lorenz. 12 rotors instead of 3. The bomb machines are helpless against it. The human mind, brilliant as it is, has limits. It gets tired. It makes mistakes. It can only process so much, so fast. And so someone asks the question that will change everything. Can a machine think faster than a man? His name was Tommy Flowers, not a mathematician, not a Cambridge genius, not the kind of person you'd imagine changing the world. He was a telephone engineer at the post office research station in London. He worked with wires and circuits and vacuum tubes, the glowing glass bulbs that powered early radios. While others saw vacuum tubes as fragile, unreliable things that burned out and needed constant replacement, Flowers saw something different. He saw possibility. In early 1943, Flowers arrives at Bletchley Park with an idea. Build a machine, he says. Not mechanical, electronic. One that uses vacuum tubes to process information at the speed of electricity. The response is swift, polite, and crushing. Impossible, the mathematicians tell him. Vacuum tubes fail constantly. You'd need thousands of them. It would never work. The experts have spoken. Flowers doesn't listen. He returns to his station in London. While the Blitz rages above, while bombs shake the city's foundations, Tommy Flowers begins to build. He uses his own money, his own time. Most nights, he doesn't sleep. His colleagues think he's chasing a fantasy, a machine that can think. But Flowers understands something the mathematicians don't. Vacuum tubes are reliable when you use them correctly, when you don't switch them on and off constantly, when you let them run hot and steady. He envisions a machine that doesn't think like a human, slowly, sequentially, getting tired. A machine that thinks like lightning. The concept is radical. Instead of mechanical rotors that spin and count, Use electronic circuits that switch between two states, on and off, 1 and 0. Process not hundreds of combinations per hour, but thousands per second. Read the encrypted tape. Test patterns simultaneously. Find the match. All at the speed of light. He calls it Colossus, not because it's big, though it will be, but because what it represents is colossal. The first programmable, electronic, digital information processor. The first machine that could be said to think. By late 1943, the war is reaching a critical point. Allied commanders are planning the largest invasion in military history, an assault on Nazi-occupied France. But the Germans know an invasion is coming. They're moving troops, building defenses, laying traps. The Allies intercept thousands of Lorenz messages about German preparations, but they can't read them fast enough. Without Colossus, the invasion could be a massacre. Flowers has 9 months. 9 months to build the impossible. Finally, the urgency convinces command to fund his project. Engineers join him. The post office provides space and materials. 2,000 vacuum tubes, miles of wire, switching circuits that had never been attempted before. It fills a room, it hums with electricity. Heat radiates from its glowing tubes like something alive. And in December 1943, they turned it on. It works. Imagine standing before it. The hum of 2,000 vacuum tubes singing in harmony. The clatter of tape readers pulling encrypted messages through mechanical fingers. The heat that makes the air shimmer. Colossus doesn't just calculate. It reads, it tests, it recognizes patterns hidden in chaos. It does in hours what would take humans weeks. And it does it without rest, without error, without doubt. The process is elegant in its simplicity. The encrypted message runs through at 30 miles per hour. Colossus tests thousands of possible wheel positions simultaneously. When it finds a pattern match, lights blink. Numbers appear. The code is broken. By early 1944, Colossus was decrypting critical German high command messages. Troop deployments, supply routes, strategic plans. Every decoded message is a life saved, a battle won, a step closer to victory. But there's something else happening, something nobody quite knows how to name. The machine is learning the patterns of encryption. After processing thousands of messages, it gets faster, more efficient. Not because anyone programs it to, but because its electronic circuits adapt to the statistical patterns of the Lorenz cipher. It's not human intelligence, but it is something. Something that thinks. June 6, 1944. The largest amphibious invasion in history is about to begin. The Allies have one advantage the Germans don't know about. For months, Colossus has been reading high command messages about beach defenses, troop positions, and tank deployments. They know where the Germans expect them, so they land where the defenses are weakest. As Allied soldiers storm the beaches of Normandy, as thousands die in the surf and sand, they're guided by intelligence that exists because of a machine. A machine that never fires a shot. A machine that never sees daylight. A machine that thinks in numbers and saves lives with mathematics. But not everyone celebrates. Some commanders look at Colossus and feel something they don't discuss in official reports. Unease. They've built something that outthinks humans. That processes information beyond human capability. What happens when the war ends? What happens when people realize that machines can do what only humans could do before? The whispers begin, even before victory is certain. This must remain secret. Not just from the enemy, from everyone. May 8, 1945. Germany surrenders. The war in Europe is over. Millions celebrate in the streets. Churchill gives speeches. Soldiers come home. Inside Bletchley Park, Colossus continues its silent work, processing the final messages of a defeated enemy. Tommy Flowers stands before his creation. He knows what it accomplished. He knows it changed history. He doesn't know that in a few short months he'll be ordered to destroy it. The war is won. But the war of secrets continues. In the classified rooms where decisions are made without public scrutiny, orders are drafted. The Official Secrets Act is extended. New classifications are created. And Colossus, the machine that helped win the war, is deemed too dangerous to acknowledge. The reasoning is cold and pragmatic. If Britain admits it can break codes with electronic machines, other nations will know encryption is vulnerable. Allies will change their codes. the advantage will be lost. Better that Colossus never existed at all. One by one, 10 Colossus machines are taken apart, not carefully preserved, not documented for history, destroyed. Every schematic is collected and burned. Every photograph is confiscated or destroyed. The building plans are altered to remove any trace of the rooms that housed them. The most advanced thinking machine ever created is reduced to scrap metal and broken glass, as if it never existed, as if it never thought at all. Tommy Flowers is forbidden to speak about his creation, not just to the public, to anyone, friends, family, future colleagues. The Official Secrets Act doesn't just classify information, it erases recognition, achievement, legacy. He returns to the post office. He works on telephone exchanges. He applies for research funding and is rejected. His most impressive work can't be mentioned on any application. He knows he changed the world. Nobody else can ever know. Imagine that weight. Imagine building something that saved countless lives, something that showed humanity what machines could become, something that should have made you famous, celebrated, honored, and being forced to carry it in silence. For decades, the 1950s arrive. Computers begin to emerge into public consciousness. ENIAC, built in America, is called the first electronic computer. Its creators have become famous. Universities compete to build newer, faster machines. The computer age begins, and Tommy Flowers reads about the birth of computers and says nothing, because he's not allowed to. History is written without him. The first chapter of artificial intelligence begins without acknowledging the machine that thought during wartime. Alan Turing, brilliant, tragic Alan Turing, is eventually recognized for his code-breaking work. But even his papers never mention Colossus, because he can't. Here's the cruel irony. While the world celebrates each new breakthrough in computing, first programmable computer, first electronic processor, first digital logic system, all of these things had already been achieved, in secret, in wartime, by a machine the government destroyed. The nation that built the first thinking machine buried it like a shameful secret. And for 30 years, history moved forward without knowing what had already been accomplished. Tommy Flowers grew old in silence. The machine that could think was forgotten, as if thought itself could be classified, as if genius could be redacted, as if history could be erased with a stamp and a match. Nearly 30 years after the war ended, a series of documents are quietly declassified, and historians discover something impossible. Before ENIAC, before UNIVAC, before any computer the public knew about, there was Colossus. At first nobody believes it. It seems too advanced for 1943, too sophisticated, too much like science fiction. But then the veterans begin to talk. Now elderly, finally released from their oath of secrecy, they tell the story that was buried. And slowly, painstakingly, the truth emerges from decades of shadow. Tommy Flowers, now in his 70s, can finally speak about his life's greatest work. In interviews, his voice is steady, but carries the weight of 30 years of enforced silence. He doesn't complain. That wasn't his nature. But there's something in his eyes. Relief that the truth can finally be told. That his creation can finally be acknowledged. That history can finally be corrected. In the 1990s and 2000s, something remarkable happens. A team of engineers and historians decide to rebuild Colossus. Using the few surviving photographs, the memories of those who operated it, and painstaking historical research, they reconstruct the machine that was ordered destroyed. They find original vacuum tubes from the 1940s. They recreate the circuit designs from fragmentary notes. They rebuild the tape readers, the switching mechanisms, the indicator panels. And in 2007, they turn it on. After 60 years of silence, Colossus thinks again. Today, we live in the age Colossus predicted. Machines that think, systems that learn, intelligence that exists in circuits and code. Every smartphone in your pocket has millions of times the computing power. But they all trace their ancestry back to that room in Bletchley Park. To those 2,000 vacuum tubes glowing in the darkness. To Tommy Flowers' impossible idea. We build artificial intelligence now. We teach machines to recognize faces, translate languages, compose music, write text. We debate whether AI can truly think. But decades before we had that debate, a machine was already thinking. Not like humans think, but thinking nonetheless. Finding patterns in chaos. Solving problems beyond human speed. Proving that intelligence isn't limited to biology. Stand in Bletchley Park today, and you can see the rebuilt Colossus. Still working, still processing, a monument to forgotten genius. And you have to ask yourself, how many other breakthroughs have been classified, buried, forgotten? How many other minds were silenced by secrecy? What else did we build before we were ready to acknowledge it? The story of Colossus is a reminder that history isn't always written by the victors. Sometimes it's written by the people who decide what can be spoken about. And genius doesn't always get celebrated in its own time. Sometimes it waits in silence, patient, until the secrets expire and the truth can finally emerge. We dream of AI as our future. Autonomous systems, machine consciousness, silicon minds that might someday think like we do, or better. But once, it was our secret weapon. Built not in peace, but in war. Created not to enrich humanity, but to defeat an enemy. And maybe that's the real lesson. That artificial intelligence wasn't born in a laboratory with noble intentions. It was born in